So I had a wonderful time yesterday in New York City walking around. I got in early. I had a workshop at 6, and so I got in there for like 4:30 and had a long stroll. And it was real fun because at one point I looked at my phone and my Instagram, and I had posted two things I think yesterday. How all occasions do inform against me, Hamlet, and then my usual political stuff, exploring what the great male god is all about and why we're so susceptible to it. And of course, the Shakespeare got some likes, which is really nice because it's actually an experiment that I'm doing, and I feel that it's getting less and less Shakespearean, which is the point. So I'm very pleased. I'm very grateful for that response. But nothing on the political stuff. And which is only really interesting to me is that because if one actually takes how all occasions from this time forth my thoughts be bloody or be nothing worth is the conclusion, one is actually dealing with the song of Hamas. And that's kind of intriguing because it's, couched in famousness, and it's rather beautifully written, that we think, oh, how groovy. Whereas, in fact, that's what the young student from Wittenberg, or maybe not so young student from Wittenberg, was pondering. Vengeance. So here's another one. To be or not to be? That's the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them to die. To sleep. No more. And by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is there too. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep, to sleep. Perchance to dream. There's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time? The oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of disprized love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin. Who would fardels bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life? But that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the will and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all. And thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied o'er by the pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pitch and moment with this regard their currents turn awry and lose the name of action. So yeah, big and famous one. Most marvelous. And the thing that I'm approaching is the notion that in Shakespeare, and particularly in these speeches, soliloquies, but often spoken to other people on stage, and all spoken to the audience. The audience are actually the larger cast of the play. They all could end in the first phrase, to be or not to be, that is the question. Then I'm off. So whether it is nobler in the mind, that's a second thought. How all occasions is perfect. How all occasions do inform against me and spur my dull revenge. That's what he has to say to the audience. He's on his way off and he suddenly stops and says, "What is a man if the chief good and market of his time be but to sleep and feed?" A beast. He's entering into a discussion with the audience. So that's my thought. And working with it, what tends to happen, what the great Germaine Greer says about Shakespeare and says about iambic pentameter, is that it's a way of beginning to speak, or beginning a thought, which then leads to the next one. I'm working on this right now with the St. Crispin's Day speech of Henry V. It's just glorious, and how he begins something, he's responding to something. Who is he that wishes so? My cousin Westmoreland. No, my fair cousin, if we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss. And if to live, the fewer men, the greater share of honor. So, and then, etc., etc. Because I have found, listening to people, very rarely, public speakers, for instance, very, very rarely, but every now and again, somebody will. There was a woman in a parliamentary meeting after the great atrocity, really, of Grenfell Towers, who did it, and she did it totally naturally. She just flowed. It's a 5-minute speech. She just flows from one thing to another. Maybe I'll try and post it at some point. It's a YouTube video. It's just remarkable. So yeah.